Okay, so I've just written down that it's Sunday the 15th of May, and...
Are you recording currently?
Yeah, I'm taking a voice note, yeah.
I currently don't consent for a recording to take place between us, unfortunately.
So the NHS deems if you want to take notes of a medical consultation, then not everybody has pen or paper or is confident using pen or paper or can take comprehensive, complex information down using pen or paper.
Okay.
So the NHS deems that audio recordings are permissible as a form of note-taking, but only in medical consultations. So you can't record people if we had a conversation in the corridor, that wouldn't be deemed to be appropriate. And you're not allowed to only a medical consultation. At the moment we're in a private room and it's just an RMN and myself, you and I talking. One of the things I wanted to cover, because I've got a policy document, C43, which is from NHS Staff and Partnership Trust, which covers that explicitly and in detail.
So
and
I know. I'm not sorry to cut you short. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you, but I'm not happy with it being recorded. I have to liaise with my management first to see if that's appropriate and what we can do in this scenario. Okay.
So, note taking, I'm sure, like equal opportunities, I'm sure you can understand. Some people aren't competent writing down, with a pen and paper. Voice notes are deemed to be an acceptable form of note taking under equal opportunities and for various other reasons. So,
Rhoda, I hope you don't mind me saying I just had to check with management. That's all. And then I can come and sit down and have that conversation with you. That's a little bit above me, if that's okay.
If you want, I've literally got a copy of version 1.1. There's like a 1.2 now.
Okay.
I've got a copy of the other literature that's printed out in my bag, and that's printed out by an NHS trust. But although it is a different trust, the interpretations of law, data protection, sort of patient security and equal opportunities are a broad interpretation, and I'm certain that although you might not be personally familiar with the legislation and the way it's interpreted, and it's fair to say that there could be differentiations between different NHS trusts in as much that there's no NHS trust which is going to say that somebody who potentially didn't have any hands was going to have, for example, and that might sound a little bit perverse, but that's the basis under which also if somebody may be heavily medicated, they might be very distraught, they might not be able to retain information as competently, writing everything down with a biro, complex bits of information regarding their treatment, their care, and certainly if there's been errors, that needs to be documented, and there's nowhere that anybody can have a sort of a procedural legislative ledger of a narrative of events if they aren't documented. If somebody could write down, I was denied this and this happened and this has been a problem, but without a kind of like a discourse part of the the ability for note taking, and it also bolsters and reinforces accountability on behalf of the NHS, so that people can hold people to account should they need to, if that's necessary. So far, your conduct hasn't, I've got no reason to hold you personally accountable for anything. You've been quite polite, and
do you mind if I go and just liaise with management first? I don't want to I completely understand where you're coming from, but I just need to double check with someone higher up than me that I'm okay to proceed with recording.
Well, I'm happy for you to do that, but at the same time, like I would, the integrity and the rights of the audio recording that I'm making, I believe to remain intact under the basis of the fact that note taking using a mobile device is deemed broadly by the NHS to constitute permissible note taking.
Absolutely.
Also, I would add, just in case it's mentioned, that it specifically adds in the NHS legislation, other NHS legislation that I've read, that it can be overt or covert, so you don't have to make somebody aware of that you're recording for obvious reasons. If somebody, if there's been misconduct, you're allowed to take a note of that, as long as it's in private. If there's no patients audible, as long as it's a consultation with a medical professional that's involved in your care. you're allowed to use audio recordings as a voice note to capture that. Part of the other problem, it's a bit of a paradox, part of the other problem is that they're, as I tried to ask, although you weren't able to provide some of the other documents.
No, of course. I'm still waiting on that document about beds for you, okay?
I managed to find the bed management document in about a minute. I just searched on the website and I've got the PDF now, which just shows that it defers to sort of like, the various different local boards, and it's got the kind of flow chart. I haven't read it comprehensively, but I managed to find that. The policy regarding mobile devices as a use of note taking, you don't have an indexed, most trusts will have an indexed, itinerised set of policy documents. So, if you want to look at policy documents regarding a certain subject, then they'll be broken down into to an index that you can search them by. Your website is just you just have to guess effectively. You just have to search, and then you can find. There is documents which are available if you happen to find the right search terms, which is extremely arcane, quite unprofessional, and quite a prominent issue. And I think that's, from your perspective as a professional, but also as a human being just coming to work for a job for a salary, that's something which actually for both of us, it is something which is an issue. So it would be really useful if when you speak to your superior, you could make it clear that, both the patient and I aren't clear on the policy on this, because I wasn't able to locate the policy document on the website. I don't need to. That's irrelevant. I haven't got any need to contact them at this stage. But the fact that you haven't got that policy document, I would say first and foremost, ask them to provide you with the policy document. In fact, I would stipulate that, please. If you ask them to provide you with the policy document. So
we're still recording, and I'm not very comfortable with it until I speak to management. Okay, so bear with me 2 minutes.
Ultimately, I'm allowed to, but I'm more than happy for you to do that. And I'm not going to, I won't ask you the questions regarding my care, until you've got that document. What I'm saying is, so I would ask that you please, ask them to provide you the document, because you need it so that you can make a correct professional decision. You don't risk your career, by being negligent or refusing to do something which you are required to do by law, or the patient or the service user's got a right to do. And also, I'd like a copy of that document, because I haven't been able to be able to do that. The NHS document also specifies that recordings can be shared only in unadulterated form onto social media. It's not something I'm necessarily intending on doing at the moment, but that is something which is enshrined within parallel legislation drafted by NHS, and I would imagine that also permits the use of live streaming or video live streaming. I've live streamed medical consultations. I have had reason to do that in the past. I've published those on social media, and there's been no problem with that. So, although that's not something I'm implicitly asking, when you have the conversation, ask for the policy document which specifies the use of mobile devices in the care environment, as per I was asking you earlier, and also specifically about the document, the policy document referencing personal note taking and consultation. That might be also, if they say we don't know, that might also be relevant in broader NHS legislation. The other thing I would say is that there isn't the only thing you've got. One of the things I wanted to cover, it's relevant to our conversation now, before we go into like a full consultation. The only thing that I managed to find earlier on, which stipulates mobile phone use, is a document which is called Welcome to the Ward. Somewhere down there, it says mobile phones with built-in cameras are strictly banned. Now that might, in theory, that would contradict the implicit rights which parallel NHS trusts have. Just 2 seconds, we're busy, thank you. So it says that you can't use cameras at all on the ward. Now, whilst I understand that's... just a second, let me just make sure that I don't breach data protection by... but yeah, so the document says you can't use cameras at all, and that's the only thing. It's on Welcome to the Ward. So you might find, if they do find a policy document, those two things contradict. I don't necessarily choose, I haven't taken any photographs and I don't intend to necessarily record any video, but you might find in the policy document it says that I can. I might want to record myself in my room, but if you could get the policy document, that'd be great.